Okay, so now let's talk about positioning. There are 4 different position properties that we need to make ourselves aware of. Fixed, relative, absolute, and static. Static is the default position, so we don't need to set it to static, but just know that the default is static. So the first position we're going to look at is fixed positioning. Fixed positioning involves an element remaining in the same position in the browser window while a user scrolls the remaining page content. So we see this a lot with this top here, whether it is just a title of your web page or a navigation menu. When you scroll up and down, if it's fixed, then it would still stay at the top regardless of scrolling. As you can see right now, ours just disappears. So we are going to use fixed positioning in order to get that effect. So let's try that first. So we're going to go down in our header declaration here, since that's the element we want to fix, and we're going to put in the rule position colon space fixed semicolon, and then let's go ahead and run it here. So here we are. Right away you're like, oh, but it just covered the other content. Now they can't see the top of my page. Yes, that's where the other positioning elements come in. So let's go in here. And now let's talk about relative positioning. Relative positioning allows us to make adjustments to the default position of an element while preserving the space allotted to the element in the normal flow. We implement it by setting the position property to relative, and we specify how far to move the element from the default location using horizontal positions left or right, or vertical positions top or bottom. So let's do that now. So under our article, we're going to type in the word position, colon, and this time we're going to put in relative, semicolon. And then there's something else I need to do, but let's see what it looks like so far. And we see here, just by doing that, stuff started to change, right? So we did see that it put it above our fixed element here, and it put it towards the top. And that's because we have not yet established a position from the top. So remember, the position is relative from its default location, and its default location is here at the top. So in order to move it down below our title there, we're going to want to go back into our code and type in top 35 pixels. Let's save this and then let's refresh and see what happens. So now our title has returned and we see that this element here is down. So now let's look at our sidebar here. Notice that our aside element is still hidden. So now let's play with our third position option, which is absolute. So down here in our aside, we're going to add the rule position, and this time let's put absolute. Now, absolute positioning takes an element out of the normal flow and positions it in a location we specify. Basically, it means that it's absolutely there no matter what else is going on around it. To be honest with you, absolute is not used nearly as much as fixed and relative, and once you see, I believe you will understand why. So we're going to put in position absolute here just to test it out, and then we're going to tell it that we want it to absolutely be 50% from the top at all times. And the percent is relative to the browser size or the screen size. Now that we've saved it, let's go in here and refresh. And you see it moved it down here, 50% of my screen. So if I shrink my screen down, watch, then we see how the positioning works. This stays fixed, this stays at the top, relative to the header, and this stays within the 50% mark of the browser window. Now one more thing before we finish this video, let's talk about stacking order. Now remember, CSS, every element is basically a box. So sometimes we want our boxes stacked in a different way. So let's say that we had this content here and for some crazy reason we wanted it to be above our title. Don't ask me why, but maybe we do. So if for some reason you're seeing your boxes showing in an order that is not suitable to your design layout, then we can control that stacking order using what's called the z-index element. We'll just pick on, let's just pick on the article. I'm going to go in here and I'm going to type in z-index. And if we want to move something backwards, it's -1. If we want to move something forwards, it's +1. So I'm going to put in a 1 here. And then I'm going to save. And then let's run it. Now initially when you look at it, you're saying, well, Melody, it looks the same. But no, watch. As I scroll, look what happens. Ooh. So the article element is now above the header element. So if you scroll up, it moves the article element over the title element. A little trippy, right? So that's what positioning is all about. You will find, obviously we didn't need it in this example, but there are times when, because of the way your content's ordered, it's not showing in the order you wanted as far as what's on top, and so that's when the z-index would come in. And that's what we have for today on positioning. I will see you next time.